Hello and welcome to this inaugural episode of the Scrying Pool, where Stone Circle Games looks at designers' game offerings that have not yet been published and tells you what's coming up over the horizon that you should keep an eye out for. Today we've got the party game Dracula's Feast, which is being published either by Jelly Bean Games or Bluebeard Entertainment. It's kind of hard to tell which. Dracula's Feast styles itself as an alternative to psychological party games like Mafia or Werewolf. In the aesthetic of this game, all the players are monsters at a feast thrown at Dracula's castle, and they're all sort of getting each other's way as they seek to eat all of the villagers that are also in attendance. As they jockey for dinner guest supremacy, I guess, they're all going to unmask each other and banish each other from the party until only one monster is left, and then he gets to eat everybody, hooray. There are really two things that separate out Dracula's Feast from the pack of similar kind of games. The first that they're quick to tell you is that there's no basic personality around this table. In Mafia or in Werewolf, you got these sort of villager personalities that don't do anything special, and whenever you draw one of those randomly and you're that person for the round, you sort of feel cheated because you don't get to do any really cool stuff. Well, Dracula's Feast just does away with that idea completely. Everyone's a monster. Everyone has some sort of special ability or special goal, and that really does help to keep things very interesting. The second thing, which really isn't emphasized as much by the designers, is that there's no actual go-to-sleep phase. If you've played Mafia or Werewolf, you know that there's a point where everyone in the circle puts their head down, and the moderator, who's actually out of the game, sort of runs this sleepy time event. Well, in Dracula's Feast, there's no moderator, everyone's in the game, and also there's no sleepy time. Everyone's just constantly going, and everyone has distinct turns, sort of more like a traditional card game than a Mafia-style party game. Now, I'm not ready to say that that's good or bad, but it certainly is very different than what I had expected. If you're sold this game sort of as a werewolf alternative, and then you get in there and find out that one of the main werewolf mechanics isn't present, that might seem a little disingenuous. Fortunately for me, that moment of being taken aback was washed away pretty quickly by the fact that Dracula's Feast actually is a lot of fun. There's a lot of stuff to figure out, and it really does capture this idea, sort of like a Sherlock Holmes book or the game of Clue, where you're trying to figure out what everyone's identity is based on the very scant clues that are available to you. The game is really simple to play. That prototype rulebook they sent me is just one page, front and back, and you can learn to play it in just a couple of minutes. But there's a lot of depth that comes out of that simplicity. A lot of alliances form without an explicit alliance mechanic, and a lot of targets form without a lot of motivation to directly target people written into the rules. The game is very manageably short, really shockingly short, actually. If you're playing with 4 or 5 people, you're going to be able to get through a round in 3 to 8 minutes, which is really amazing for a party game. The biggest weakness of Dracula's Feast isn't actually a problem with the game, it's just a problem of perception of what it is. This is not a game of persuasion, like, say, a Werewolf or a Mafia, where you're trying to yell over people and explain what you think people are going for. It's not a psychological game player to player. This is a deduction game. You're playing against the cards and paying attention to what everybody else's reaction is, but you don't actually have to convince anybody else of anything, sort of go along with you in a crowd. The way the bare bones of the mythology of the game are constructed, it's very easy to add in sort of persuasion or party or role-playing game elements when you invite another character to dance, you can actually dance with them, or you can speak in character, things like that. But those aren't hard-boiled into the game, and you sort of have to go above and beyond the call of duty to introduce them. As games of deduction go, it functions extremely well. Just be aware that that's what you're getting into when you buy it or play it, because the marketing is, I think, a little skewed. As with all preview games, I'm not really sure what the final form is going to look like, especially when you add in any Kickstarter stretch goals that I'm sure they have. We're just playing here with the base prototype set. But as it sits on my table, this is a very tight, highly functional party game of deduction. And that's Dracula's Feast, an upcoming party game for 4 to 8 players from Jelly Bean Games. If it seems like something you're interested in, go check it out and tell them SCG sent you. Either way, be sure to keep an eye out for our next gaze into the future through the Scrying Pool.